Now, if you're looking to lease a car, there's some key areas you definitely want to understand and be aware of, and I'm going to go over 5 today. So the first thing I would say you need to understand is what you're actually paying for, because a lease is not like buying a car, it is complicated. So when you lease, what you're paying for is the actual depreciation of the car. So let's say the car is worth something now, and you're going to use it for, let's say, 3 years. And when you bring it back, it's going to be worth less. So that difference is the depreciation, and that's what you're going to need to pay for. So for example, let's say the car is worth $50,000 when you're buying. That's the MSRP. And you're going to have this lease for 36 months. And when you bring it back, the value of the car is going to be worth $30,000. So it's $50,000 now, but when you bring it back, it's going to be worth $30,000. That difference is the depreciation of the car, because now the car's value has dropped by $20,000, and that's exactly what you're paying for. So you're paying for that $20,000 of depreciation over the next 36 months, 48 months, or however long the lease term is. That's what you're going to be paying for over that period of time. So now that we have that part out the way, now you can decide, is it better to lease a car or better to buy the car? So here's some simple questions you can ask yourself to help gauge which one makes the most sense. First is, how long do you plan on keeping the car? So if you plan on keeping the car 2 to 4 years, leasing may make the most sense. But if you plan on keeping it more than 4 years, you probably want to buy that car, because leasing a car longer than 4 years makes no sense financially. Next is, are you okay with always having a car payment? Because the truth is, once the lease is over, you don't have a car. And if you need another car, you're going to have to buy or lease, and you're back in a scenario. And if you continue to lease, you'll never own the car, and you'll constantly have a car payment. So if that's something you're okay with, leasing may be fine. But if not, you probably want to look at buying. Next, you want to decide what's more important to you, luxury or practicality. And I'm going to say this, and this is not a fact at all, but from my experience, typically luxury cars do not last a long time. And when it comes to the maintenance, it's very expensive. So if you want luxury, I think leasing may be the better option for you. And this next question requires a lot of honesty. How does your car look after a few years? So after a few years, does it look like you ran into the garage a few times? Or maybe the inside of your car was the major arena for a cat fight or something like that, but you know the condition of your car after a few years. So if it's squeaky clean and looks brand new, then go ahead and lease a car. But if you know you have some challenges taking care of a car, you're probably better off buying, because you're going to get hit with tremendous fees when you try to turn that car in. And then lastly, do you like for your car to have the latest technology? So if you're a techie person and you want the latest buttons and gadgets in your car, you're probably better off leasing. So if you're still with me, you probably planted your flag that you're going to lease a car, so let's move forward with some numbers. So the first thing I would say that's critical for you to understand is the money factor. The money factor is the financing cost of a monthly lease payment. The money factor is essentially the portion of a monthly payment on a lease that is allocated to the financing cost of the lease. So pretty much what it's saying is that the money factor is equivalent to what an interest rate would be. So if you're looking for an interest rate on your paperwork, you will not find it. What you'll find is the money factor. So the money factor is expressed in a number like this. You'll have a decimal point and a bunch of numbers to follow. And I know that looks confusing, but I'm going to give you a simple formula that can help you turn that money factor into a comparable interest rate. So you're going to take this money factor and you're going to multiply it by 2,400. That's just the mathematical number that was figured out to turn that money factor into a comparable interest rate. So when you do the math on that, that comes out to 8.57%. So now when you see that money factor, you can convert it to a comparable interest rate, and you can determine if that interest rate is something that works for you or not. The next thing you want to be aware of that's really important is the mileage limit they give you. Because if you drive over that mileage limit, you're going to be charged a fee for every single mile. So let's say you get a lease and they're giving you 10,000 miles a year, but you actually drive 15,000 miles a year, and you have that lease for a 4-year period of time. So every year you're going 5,000 miles over the limit they gave you, and you have that lease for 4 years. That equals 20,000 extra miles on your lease. So let's say they charge you 30 cents for every mile you go over. You'll take that 30 cents, multiply it times 20,000. That means you'll have a $6,000 fee just for going over your mileage. So make sure that doesn't happen to you by paying attention to how many miles you normally drive any given year. So last tip I want to give you is something that a lot of people are not aware of, and that's that when your lease is up, you can actually sell your lease back to the dealer and make a profit. So here's what I mean. So remember when you got your lease, they told you that the residual value of your car would be $30,000. And remember, you're paying for the depreciation, but the value of the car will be $30,000 when you turn it back in. So they're projecting what it's going to be in the future. But let's say at the end of the lease, you check the blue book value of your car, and the car is actually valued at $35,000. Because things happen, inventory changes, but for whatever reason, your car is worth $35,000. They told you it would be worth $30,000, but it's actually worth $35,000. You can actually sell that car back to the dealer for $35,000. they'll deduct the $30,000 residual. So you actually have $5,000 in equity that you can walk away with. So you literally turn the car in and you walk away with a check of $5,000, right? That's very important to understand. I actually made an entire video on that subject and I'll link it at the end. But those are the 5 things you want to be aware of, or at least know about if you're looking to lease a car. So I hope this was helpful. And like always, if you received any value from this video, put a happy face in the comment section. And of course, if you have a question, you can comment as well. But I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe, do all those things, and I will see you in the next video.